Right. Sorry I'm not able to make it to the podcast this time around. I was busy after the game last night and the lads went and recorded one. But I've been asked to give a quick video on my thoughts on the game. Not that I should even bother giving my time to this club right now for the performances they're putting in. Like, look, what do you say when you lose 5-0 at home? You know, I said a few weeks ago that the 2-0 loss to Wellington was one of the worst games I've ever seen in my life. And somehow it's gotten worse. And I didn't think it could, but it has. Now, I don't want to take... I'll be honest, this is the next day now. We've moved on about 24 hours later. I've had time to kind of calm myself down. I'm still very angry, but nowhere near as angry as I was last night because I was angry to put up that kind. You know, the fact that you're still getting 7,000 plus fans and perform like that. This is the most fans we've had in quite a while on a consistent basis because we were getting 3,000 or 4,000 last season and we're getting a lot compared to that now. This is the kind of performance we're putting out. This is not good enough. Like, this is the worst we've ever been since I've been watching. The worst. This whole new era, this new time to be a Glory fan. It's the worst we've ever been. We are 4 weeks in and we have looked absolutely diabolical. It's not even a football team. And questions have to be asked. And at the end of the day, someone's responsible. Whether it's one person, it's two people, is it multiple people? Is it the dressing room? Is it the manager? Is it the owner? Is it the sporting director? I think it's a bit of everything. But at the end of the day, this is a business. And someone has to be held responsible. I fully expect and am happy for someone to lose their position after this. Whether it's the manager or whether it's just... Someone has to be held accountable for this. I don't know the ins and outs. Whatever is the problem, it needs to be dealt with. I'm past it. I'm honestly past it. I've been sold multiple dreams and expectations of this club. And even on the radio today, which this is a benefit for me recording this now, I don't think the boys would have been able to hear this when they recorded it yesterday, is that we've had Stan on the radio today claiming we're going to get a bunch of really good high-quality players in either in January or next season who will all be good enough to start in starting 11. Well, that's great, right? That's fantastic. If that's true, awesome. But you don't have to be that good to start in this team. You don't have to be an excellent player. So he might be telling the truth. And we bring in some of the worst rotational A-League players because they're better than NPL players. So I'm just trying to think. I don't want to say a name and openly criticize anyone because they're not that bad. I don't know. Like, I'm not going to say any names because it's best not to say that. But you know what I'm saying. That we could sign a bunch of players that will get straight into starting 11. That's because this starting 11 is the worst it's ever been. You know, I see Ollie Sale in the goal, over it, kicking this goalpost through, and rightfully so, because his back four just doesn't seem to know what it's doing, doesn't know how to communicate or how to defend. You know, the second goal, they practically walked it in. And it just feels like there's such a disconnect with the players and the team. I'm watching Dave on the sideline, and he's just sitting there with his hands in his pockets, not really doing a whole lot. He seems more confused than anybody else, to be honest. He seems very frustrated and confused. And rightfully so. I understand things aren't going well for him. Look, at the end of the day, this is only going to be a short thing for me. I would go on. But in summarization, this isn't good enough. I want answers. I want people to be held accountable. I want a response. I'm not going to stand for nothing. If nothing happens after this and we just go into next week like everything's la-di-da, let's just try... No. Like, I get... the next week it was like the international... But if we go into Unite round and nothing's happened, whether it's mutual terminations of contracts, whether it's people of going or people coming in to try and help out, something needs to happen. We can't keep doing more weeks and weeks of this. But yeah, whether it's something happening in terms of people leaving or an apology, something like that. We need some kind of recognition of how bad it's been. Not just, oh, we'll be fine, we'll get there. We need some kind of recognition of how bad it's been and action over it. But yeah, that's all from me. Go Glory.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to technically the first episode of the brand new Glory Days podcast, but it is us again meeting for what is, I think, the 13th or 14th time.
Yeah.
I can't be asked with numbers right now because the only number I can think about is the number 5, and that's for good reason. But first of all, we'll just have a few words from our resident sweetheart, Zizou Season over here.
Yeah, well, we changed the name, and the irony of it was Glory Days. We would hope that this would be a podcast that would help particularly get the club towards having some Glory Days, because we haven't had realistically any in the last few years, because all we have had has been constant disappointment. And tonight's game in particular showed that there are some pretty
glory L's.
Well, not glory days, but glory in trouble. More like it's not looking good, particularly for the men's side. We will touch on the women's side because we did watch them play first of all, and to be honest, they were the only highlight of the day. They had a fantastic 3-2 win against the Newcastle Jets, and for as comedic as some of the elements of that game were, the Glory girls put in a far better performance than what the Glory blokes did, and we may as well dissect it. So
I'll give them credit for as much as it is due. As much as people like to shit on women's football in general, and especially, the A-League women's.
Yeah.
I was thoroughly entertained by the game.
I was impressed.
And
Really
I didn't feel like, and this may be, people might say I'm a dickhead for saying this, but I almost felt like there wasn't such a strong attachment to the game where I thought that, like if I looked away or anything like that, that I would be, It's hard to say. I felt like I could genuinely just chill out and watch a game of football with my mates and just enjoy the
the
game,
experience,
rather than just wanting to fucking die after every misplaced pass. Which, trust me, there was a lot of that tonight, and we will get into that. But I guess I'm thankful that we kicked off the night in an enjoyable
that sense,
way.
and they can hold their heads up high. I thought it was particularly in the second half. I thought we really looked very good going forward. We looked a threat. You could tell that the players were on the same wavelength. They were working together, and some of the goals that was scored, even by the Newcastle side. I mean, Jesus Christ,
Some fucking
Two
crackers,
cracking
bro.
goals.
two cracking goals from the Jets. But that's unfortunately where the fun ends. So we've just come back from the 5-0 disaster. I'm not even sure what the crowd was, but
It looked fairly decent, to be honest.
what I will say
That
is
was actually a really decent crowd.
what I will say, massive credit to the Bay and to the Shed. The atmosphere that you guys put on together was outstanding. Fans from all over the league appreciated it, and they said, for the atmosphere that you guys created, we don't deserve that from what we got from the players.
You know what? I would also like to say that the atmosphere was considerably good tonight. And as bad as the performance was, I'm very thankful that we only had to hear the bass sing "Thick of It" by KSI once instead of the 7 or 8 times that we heard it in the Wellington game. But
Yeah.
it's pretty much the only highlight. I think the only thing that kept me from walking out of that fucking game early was that the Bay were genuinely at least making me enjoy elements of our suffering.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to compare us to other fan groups, and I don't want to put anyone off, but I genuinely do believe we have some of the best fans in the league, because considering for the past however many years we've done poorly,
Yeah.
and they keep coming back, because we do consistently get 5,000 or 6,000 every single season.
Show me any other fan base in the league
That's
that
as
will
loyal.
openly for 10
loyal
minutes
as
saying
us.
we've got the ball, we've lost the ball for 10 minutes while
Yeah.
being 3-0 down.
And it was loud, by the way. For those that
very
weren't at the
fucking
game,
loud.
that was loud, and everyone was getting involved in that. And imagine being a player, hearing your own fans chant that. It got to that point.
Towards the end of the game as well, people were chanting for that they wanted 6. And look, personally, I don't like that. I don't like having to take the piss out of players like that. But if that's what it's going to take to kick them up the fucking ass and get them to put up a decent fucking performance once in a while, I will happily slander them any fucking day of the week. Because what we've seen tonight and what we've seen every game so far this A-League season,
it's not been good enough.
Absolute dog shit.
It's not good enough.
Quite honestly, you don't deserve for us to sing your praises. Only person I can say I can sing their praises for tonight was probably Lewis Kanga. and that's about it.
Look, I think it's fair enough to have a little bit of a dig on the players, but as well, I think they're set up to fail. I don't think it's fair to go fully after the players, because I think there's a lot of good players in the squad, but we're setting them up to fail, and it's our structure, our system's just not working.
Here's a point that I want to raise about that. Chicken Treat Fan Club. So Fraser, we're going to give you a shout out, and we'll
Love you, Fraser.
We'll put the we're going to mention quite a few tweets because we asked for the fans' opinion. We want to get your guys' opinion because ultimately your voice is needed because the club need to hear it, to be honest.
Can we also shout out Fraser for his tweet? I chuckled at this one. The photo of Giordano Colli and then Taras Gamulka.
Yeah.
You called the man but not the idea. Oh my God, bro.
That gave us a good laugh. So
caught me off guard.
Well, every tweet that we mention, we will give it a shout out because, like we said, we want to give you guys need to have your thoughts, and hopefully people at the club, particularly those that are running things, see it, and we can actually enact positive change because that's what we need fundamentally.
I do want to note as well, I know this will probably get a lot of views based on the replies we got from asking for your opinion, and this doesn't. We don't like this attention. We don't want to profit off this.
Yeah, we'd much rather be in a position where, as the title of our podcast is, we'd much rather have, to be quite cheesy, but pun intended, glory days.
We'd much rather have an episode with 200 views where we're genuinely happy with the way that we're playing, rather than
like in the
pre-season
pre-season
500 views where I genuinely didn't even want to fucking record. Not just tonight, but just I don't want to oh man.
So
this is painful.
We'll start getting into it. So Fraser mentioned, let's break it down. Blair, Lizalewski, Lizalewski, Hamzawi, Ioma, Bulgaria, Blair and Faisal played 12 top-flight games between them last season. Lizalewski makes up 6 of those. A massive portion of your rebuild cannot bring this level of experience. Gut the club from top to bottom. We've scored 1 goal in 4 games. We've conceded 13. Under recent managers with no experience, so Richard Garcia and Ruben Zadkovic and Alan Stajic, we at least regularly showed glimpses. I'm yet to see a single good moment in 360 minutes of football that makes me believe in David Zrilic. He has to go. That's his opinion, but I don't really think you can argue with too much of what he said there, to be honest.
You really can't.
In the sense of experience especially.
Yeah. I mean, my biggest point, I think round 1 was not much different to round 4 today, and we'll promise change. Things are going to get better when the players are fitter. I'd argue we're still undercooked, but we're fitter than we were, and the same thing happened. Mille got injured within 10 minutes because he was, no player has a hamstring injury and is ready in 2 to 3 weeks. That just doesn't happen.
And they wouldn't be fully conditioned to play 45 minutes, let alone 10.
So I just haven't seen really any change since round 1.
Well, David did mention in the press conference after the game apparently that there were still a lot of players underdone. And my old man who was watching the game back home, is jack shit about football, I'm sure he'll like me saying that, was basically saying your players still look undercooked. And I'm like, well, I can't disagree with that because the way in which Melbourne City were playing, and we'll get onto this because we had a comment from a Melbourne City fan, but Melbourne City found it so easy, and it's been a problem that's been happening ever since round 1. Teams are having it really easy to play against Perth Glory, and that shouldn't be happening, regardless of if you've got the best team on the pitch or the worst team on the pitch. So we're getting to another point. Alex, there's another Alex, said that Taggart will be in Asia by... This is his opinion, by the way. Taggart will be in Asia by January. Kango was our only half-decent player. Gumulka has been genuinely awful. Can't make my mind up on Ollie Sale. Miliusnic has got to hang up the boots. Lazaridis shouldn't have got his job. And David Zrilic won't make it to January.
I'm just going to cut it. I'm going to skip ahead really quick. And about Sale, this is my personal view. I saw a comment. I think you replied to it, Alex. It was having a go saying Sale overreacted. Because I know he did kick up a fuss.
This was after the first goal when Faisal... Look, as much as I want to sing Faisal's praises for being a good attacking talent, his defensive work rate has been very poor. And it was very poor.
I think Sale was completely justified.
Absolutely. And I quote tweeted it saying, "Shut up, you fucking idiot," because that's completely justified, that response. I'm sorry. If you are a professional goalkeeper and you get let down consistently by poor defending from your squad, you have every right to go absolutely apeshit.
He kept us in the game up until that point.
Absolutely did. Absolutely did. He made some brilliant saves.
Ridiculous saves.
fantastic,
Yeah.
absolutely phenomenal. And he got let down with shit defending.
Yeah.
2 occasions of shit defending in 3 minutes, 2 goals conceded, and now I get to see fans on Twitter saying, "Oh, well, Ollie Sale's overreacting." Shut the fuck up.
It's the late-
At least, no, sorry.
that's right.
At least he's showing some fucking
Yeah.
passion. I would rather 11 Ollie Sales getting pissed off at every goal we can see,
Yeah.
rather than these fucking soft cocks that I see on Twitter saying, "Oh, well, you can't be doing that because Fazel's only a young player." I don't give a fuck. If he's a young player, if he's an old player, if he's whatever, he
Yeah.
should be ridiculed for the fact that it was shit defending. If he doesn't do it again, he doesn't get ridiculed again.
Yeah.
But he's done it 3 or 4 fucking separate times now, and it's cost us goals. Ollie Sale is completely justified, and
Yeah.
for you fucking idiots that are at home, and I won't say it to all of our fans, and I say this a lot.
no.
I swear a lot on this podcast. I call out people a lot for stupid opinions.
That's
I'm
fair.
calling whoever it was with that tweet, you are an absolute utter fucking idiot.
Right, Alex,
in
we are
every
trying to get
sense of the word.
sponsors.
But the fundamental point is that we've built a team that is not really compatible for A-League football. We've built it.
You're acting like your dad just
We've
died.
not built it.
like it, bro.
We've not built a team that's ready to play A-League football. And I made this observation during the game, and I was sharing it with Josh, and I'm not sure if people might agree, but in relation to Abdul Faisal, look, we've said this countless times on the podcast, and sometimes we do forget it, like we did with Daniel Benny last season. The young guy's only 18.
He's not a starter.
But wait, I believe at least in this game, and it's probably been the case in quite a few other games, I believe he's playing on low or minimal confidence. And the reason behind that is when players are in that flow state and they're in the zone, especially like you think of Economides in that Popovic season, or even Prime Castro, even some of the wingers that we're seeing right now in the A-League, when they're fully in that state of mind, they can really attack their opponent and get past him. I can't recall Abdul Faisal picking up the ball and getting past his opponent. And then there's moments in defensive transition where he can be quite slow to get back. So it's a learning experience for a young lad like him. If you're going to cop a bollocking from Sale, then fundamentally he has to learn. And it's the same for any young player or any player that does not put in the required effort for the team that's needed. So there's a couple more. There's a fair amount of tweets that we will get through in the end.
I did say this before. I know we were hyping him up, and fair enough. I don't have anything against him as a player, but I even said this before the start of the season, but you can't start an 18-year-old. The same thing happened with Benny. It puts too much pressure on them.
Yep.
They're not physically conditioned. They don't have the confidence. It's actually, in my opinion, worse on the player to be starting them. You need to phase them in like Aaron Kunda.
Yeah,
You can't be comparing them to Mo Salah.
Yeah, that's
a big one.
That's a good point.
Look, I don't think any of us dislike Faisal as a
No,
player. He's
no.
an incredible
We need to
young
make
talent.
that really
But
clear. We don't.
Oh, no. I don't hate a single Glory player.
Yeah.
I think that's very evident.
That needs to be made clear.
But look, I think Melbourne City played a fantastic game tonight in terms of their defensive structure. We created absolutely nothing down that right-hand side. I don't even think we tried to create anything down that right-hand side. Look, Osler did well defensively, offered nothing in attack. Carluccio was decent on the ball, but didn't offer anything in attack. And when we did go into attack down the wings, it was always down the left-hand side, and Faisal got double-teamed every single time. He didn't even have the opportunity to beat his man because he was getting double-teamed every single time.
But
and I don't think that's on him. That's on the structure.
How many times could we not keep passes together in general?
No, it was absolutely outrageous.
Yeah.
And every second pass was a long ball. Every second pass was a long ball. It was a long switch. And lots of the time, it didn't work because Melbourne City were way too quick to shut us down.
Do you know what our pass accuracy was at full time?
I don't even want to know.
60%.
73%.
That's awful.
Compared to Melbourne City's 86.
Yeah.
So I've spoken. Look, okay, you can call me a statistician or a nerd. That's fine, right? But I've mentioned XG from open play on our previous podcast, and it's one of the best measures you can possibly get to understand how effective your team is when they have the ball and they're creating chances, right? Now, I did an article with the Far Post Perth saying Taggart's isolated, he's not getting enough service, as is our forwards. And Ben Smith did an article on it, and Blaine, who also works with the Far Post Perth, I believe he asked that question to David Zrilich in the press conference leading to the game. But fundamentally, we're not creating chances, and that's backed up by the numbers. So to give you an example, so Melbourne City with an overall XG finished with 2.37. Our overall XG was 0.32. It gets worse. When you look at XG from open play, Melbourne City, 2.11. Our XG from open play was 0.22. So again, what that means is that when we have the ball, we are unable to maneuver it into positions where we can take or create really high value chances and put the goalkeeper under pressure. And yet, the same problem as last week. We were supposed to do an episode on the Mariners, the 0-0 draw, but it touched on similar issues that we've been discussing throughout the whole season. How many shots on target did we have tonight?
I don't think we had a single one.
We had one, I think.
One. They counted O'Neill's one early in the second half.
When
49th minute, I think.
I don't recall.
Yeah.
I just don't recall.
For me, looking at it, just going back to Mariners, I think Mariners, obviously they weren't as much as a threat up front, but it was very similar to City. Like, we were lucky to draw, very lucky.
Very lucky.
But even like they were playing I know they're already a young team, but they were playing their B team, and just like City, they played their B team. They're without Naboo.
Our two experienced centre backs
Lecky.
of Lockie Barr and Kanga got torn apart by 17-year-old Mehmedi, and it was absolutely disgusting to watch.
But both times they absolutely outplayed us in every single aspect of the game, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, just a final stat as well. Big chances. We discussed this after the MacArthur game, or during the MacArthur game even. We created 0 big chances. Melbourne City created 5, and they missed 2 of them. So it could have possibly even have been 7-0. Now, it's unfathomable to me as a long-time member and fan of the club, and I'm sure it's the case for everyone, how a team can perform in the way that we do, despite the several changes that were made and the statements that were made by people that were running the club leading into this season. I want fans to really remember our owner at the back end of last season, which was one of our worst seasons ever, said, we want to get up to the top of the table fairly quickly next season and we won't tolerate failure. We're 4 games in and we've conceded, I don't even know how many goals. 13 goals, that right? And we've scored 1.
And that one goal was a deflected consolation effort from Adam Bagaria.
Yeah.
The thing is, we are 4 games in and we've conceded however many goals, and we haven't, besides that deflection, which was a lucky shot, we've done nothing like up front.
Yeah, there were a lot of times where there were broken attacks against Melbourne City, and it was just, I reckon the commentators would have said at least 3 or 4 times during the game, too easy, especially in relation to how Melbourne City would have attacked us. We'll get into some more of the fans' thoughts in the reply to the comments, but just as a quick overall thought from me on the game, it's just sad. It's sad that a club that we all probably started supporting when we were young kids, and there were so many people that were in a similar position to us, and you saw what we got to see on the pitch. Let's say in the Kenny Lowe era, you got to see Castro, Keogh, Taggart, or scoring unbelievable goals, and you get to see really good performances.
Then the Popovich era.
Where we had the success. 56,000 at a grand final, right? I don't even know what the crowd was today, but we mentioned this on a previous podcast. What's the incentive to go to a game? After, I think, the 4th or the 5th goal where everyone got up and left in our section? I think it was the 4th.
It was the 4th goal.
I think it was the 4th. So there is a real sense of glumness around the club, right? So we'll get into a bit more of the thoughts. So Lauren said, my thoughts, does this coach even know how to play soccer? He's got dudes who just hit and hope. That's under 7 stuff. The at Zrilich ball, thought Kanga and Caicedo were decent first half. Putrid performance, unsure where to go from here. Ethan, pick any 11 people in the crowd at random and they would do a better job. At Frio Crude, how the fuck is this worse than last season? That's a very good question.
I think that's unfair. I'm sorry. I don't think it's as much on the players. The players have some accountability.
Yep.
Like everyone's blaming Sale, but I'm sorry, it's just not on Sale. I think it's they're being set up to failure, and I think it's. I don't like to do this, but I think the coach has to have some blame, and I think as well. The Stan Lazaridis has to speak up.
In the order of blame that it has to go, all right, I don't know.
Because we may as well get into it.
We may as well get into it. The players are at the bottom, and just above that is Rilich.
I agree.
Going between top and second from top in a 4-tier system, right?
Yep.
Bottom, 4th players. 3rd, David Drillich. 1 and 2 is between Ross Pelligra and Stan Lazaridis. Now, you can look at it and say, oh, well, Ross Pelligra should put more money in, should have given us a better opportunity to get better players, whatever. But then you've also got to look at Stan Lazaridis and say, well, you're the one in charge of the recruitment. You're the one picking out these players from God knows where when we've had opportunities to go in for other players. Can we put that down to Ross not having the money? Maybe.
Recruitment's not the thing for me. Like, yes, he was on a tight budget. We know that.
Yeah.
They try to hide it, but we all know it's the truth. It's the lack of fitness. I think that's a Stan thing.
But even still, what is the director of football's role? Like, there's what a director of football does in Europe, but if a director of football has a role where they're completely in charge of the football operations of the club, I was speaking about this with Josh on the way here. There would surely be various performance metrics to which every employee at the club would be assessed by. I'm sure of it. The question is, since Stan was appointed very early on by Ross Pelligra, has he hit those performance targets?
No.
The answer would have to be no. Now,
And we don't hate Stan. We love Stan.
no,
here on the
but
podcast.
what fundamentally has happened, and I'm sorry, I've got to be honest, what was the rationale or the criteria behind employing Stan Lazaridis as director of football and I mentioned this on a previous podcast, when he's had zero experience either in that role or in a similar position at a football club and has had success in doing so.
To add to that, just like Zrilic and how Stan's essentially backing up Zrilic, if you're hiring someone and you're confident in Stan, but he's got no experience, who's backing Stan?
It would have to be Vince and Ross, because Vince is a director and Ross is our owner.
So I feel like essentially there's not enough backing of each other.
Well, it's not just that. The question is, what direction are we wanting to take the club? Now, when Ross Pelligra was interested in buying the club, fans might have forgotten this comment, but he made this about Lazaridis when it was rumoured that he'd be involved in the consortium. He said, when I do something like this, I bring in people with high talent and an understanding of the game, and he has that. We've had a few chats, but nothing is concrete yet. My interest will be in protecting the club and the community and getting in the best people to assist me in making that happen. Right now, and I want to try and be as objective as I can, but right now, the people that Ross has brought in, have they ultimately got this club or done their job well enough to get this club anywhere closer to being better than what we were last season? No. As an honest question, what do you think?
Not right now, no.
Not right now. Okay, no. So that's when I question our vision, our direction. And in terms of your tier system, for me, number one is Ross Pelligra. That's the person that has to answer quite a lot of questions. And there was a really good comment that was made by Matthias with the username Cangavaro and Canabaro season, which is pretty good. He said, and it's a really good point, if this ownership group want fans to tolerate being this dire on the pitch as a necessary evil as part of a rebuild, then the club needs to explain why. If you're clearing debt, focusing on building a training ground or whatever, be frank and say so. And I think that's a really important point.
We said this last podcast episode as well, but all we wanted was honesty from the club.
Absolutely.
If the club came out and said that this is a transitional year where we're looking to try and see what we can do with a young core, with a big squad, to see who we can keep around for next year on a shoestring budget because we've got debt to clear and because we want to get a permanent home of football, then just say it. You do so much less damage if you just said it. Will some people stay home from the games because they feel let down? Absolutely. But you're not going to run your reputation into the ground. You are actively ruining your own reputation and the reputation of this football club by not being transparent with your fans. And it doesn't help that, you rarely see Ross or Stan at a game.
Yeah.
It doesn't help.
Stan, he started off games with the coaches on the bench, which, sorry, that's a first for me. I've never seen a director of football sit on the bench with coaches before.
And physio as well.
Yeah, but he has since gone to the stands. But I made the call of calling out Ross Pelligra in the previous episode, but it's like, I want to hear from you, right? I want you, like when Catania had that situation that they did where they failed to pay 1 million euros as part of a guarantee to the Italian league body or whatever.
FIGC.
Yeah, that's it. and they didn't pay it. There was pressure from a lot of Catania fans, the Catania mayor or whatever, and Ross had to do a press conference where he basically said, right, here's what happened. We've not really seen or heard much from Ross. And this was a point that I made in the podcast last time. I'm not aware, and I'm happy to be corrected if there's that information that's there and available. I've not been made aware of Ross Pelligra actively wanting to meet fans of Perth Glory because, look, he's not from Perth. He's from Melbourne. He's tried to buy other A-League clubs before. Surely, if you're not from Perth, you'd be thinking, shit, I want to meet as many of my future stakeholders that I can to try and understand what are your concerns. And then you can say, well, look, we want to get this club to the top. We probably won't be able to do that this coming season because we've got the debt to focus on. We want to try and build new facilities. We didn't get a lot of funds from the APL. But you've not been clear and transparent, and it's hard for us to it's hard for us to reach you and communicate with you if you're not even in Perth to begin with. I'm not sure if he was even at the game today, but it's getting to the point where you sort of are directionless and you're sort of thinking, where do we actually go from here?
I just want to read out something quick as well. There's a little stat I've just come up with on my own, but
Sure.
I've got currently a list of all 29 of our contracted first team players.
Yep.
I want to read off to you every single player that in one of these opening 4 game weeks has been dropped from the squad.
Right.
Meaning that either because of injury or because of selection, they weren't selected. David Williams, not in the squad today. First 3 rounds, Caicedo. Anasmo still hasn't made an appearance. Aoyama was dropped from the squad today. Miliuznic, injured twice, dropped from the squad on 2 occasions. Amini, still injured apparently, or at least so from what we've heard. Will Franey hasn't made the bench yet.
Wait.
Neither has Jalen Pearman. Brandon O'Neill was dropped to the bench today, but we won't count him. But Luke Bodnar, since the first game, has not been in the squad.
Yep.
Hamzawi has not been in the last 2 squads. Riley Warland has not made the bench yet.
No.
Jacob Muir has not made the squad for, I think, 3 of the opening 4 games.
I think that'd be right, yeah.
Majeka Dunmi has not been in the squad since the first game.
Yeah.
Trent Osler only now was in the squad and was starting today. Josh Risden, obviously injured as well.
Yeah.
And Cameron Cook yet to make a start. So I didn't do the counting there, but from what I'm pretty sure that is about 10 to 15 players that are either out for injury reasons or
Dropped.
are out because they've been dropped by the coach. Now, we talk a lot about, or at least we have talked, and we will continue to talk until it happens, but the upcoming January window and how there are obviously a lot of areas that need to be addressed. Now, look, we can give our best guess here as to whether we think Ross will invest heavily or if he won't invest.
He has no choice but to invest heavily.
He does, but it doesn't mean that he will, and we know that.
That's the problem.
That is the problem. But that would be a problem with any club. It's not just a Ross thing. It's a ownership thing. It's a managerial sort of thing. There are heaps of problems that need to be addressed. And Stan knows that, and Ross knows that, and I think everyone at the club knows that. So that's why I'm saying all hands will be on deck for January. But it is a concern that we have the biggest squad in the league, 29 contracted first-team players.
Could even argue 30.
Could even argue 30 if you include Robert Cook. Yet we haven't even gotten close to sorting out what our ideal starting 11 is or what our ideal squad is for that matter.
Yeah.
Because there's about 10 to 15 players that you could say, well, maybe they're going to get offloaded because either they're too injury prone or they're not rated by management. Because if there's a player that's rated by management, you're keeping them in your squad at all costs.
Yep.
So when you have a player like David Williams, who we know offers value off the bench
And experience.
you have to ask, well, why was he dropped today? When
Doesn't
you
make
have
sense.
players like Joel Anasmo, who are coming back from injury and showed a lot of promising signs last season, you have to ask, well, why are they dropped? Majeka Dunmi not making it in over Labib in every single game since the first game of the season. You have to ask, this is a player that towards the second half of last season was crucial for us. Why are they not even making the squad?
Yeah.
These are a lot of questions that have to be asked. But once again, we're not getting answers to these questions because, look, from what we hear from certain
sources,
what we're being fed on a lot of occasions is bullshit.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same with every club. There's obviously going to be only so much that you can actually figure out from what you're being told. But I wonder what is actually going on behind the scenes at the club, and when is it going to be addressed?
Because a big question for me was, do you remember Lazaridis' interview where he said we had 8 or 9 people that we wanted to sign, but they rejected us?
Yep.
Or why?
Why did they reject?
It's not because the club is
concerns me-
unstable.
What concerns me is that we've also heard numerous things, and I don't know if we can get in trouble for saying half the shit we're saying, but I'll say it anyway because whatever.
Need to be honest.
We've heard several sources, several reliable sources that have told us that there are a number of very proper deals lined up in terms of Australian talents, in terms
overseas.
of big visa signings that could have made a major difference for us that we either couldn't get over the line for, or we were priced out of the deal, in not that they were asking outrageous money, but very reasonable deals that we turned ourselves away from, despite having everything pretty much sorted, because we felt that we could find a better alternative for cheap. So once again, I'm asking, and we're asking, where is the transparency?
Yeah.
If you're going to say to us, look, we could have gotten this player, but we needed to save money to clear the debt, or to do this or to do that, fine, whatever, sure. Why haven't you told us? Because what it looks like to a lot of people is that there is no reason you're doing this, and because of the reason that you are doing this is because you are trying to be cheap. I don't think that Ross Pelligra is trying to be overtly cheap for no apparent reason, because he would know as a football owner, especially with Catania, where he's made several impressive signings for their team, like Roberto Inglese, like Stefano Sturaro, who I am sure these are going to be players that are well paid.
Yeah.
You can't build a serious squad on a shoestring budget.
Well,
it doesn't work.
Here's an important question. It might hurt a little bit, but are we a vanity project?
Josh, what the fuck are you looking for?
Oh, I was making sure I was plugged in.
No, you're right. It's all good. But my question is,
I don't think we're a vanity project, but I don't think the passion is there like Sage.
Vanity project in the sense of, I brought this up last time. We've seen more evidence of cost cutting, and just because you sign 14 players, doesn't necessarily mean that you're fully invested. I'd much rather that we sign 5 or 6 quality players and relied on the young boys from the academy, because we've clearly got talented guys that are coming through the academy, and I'd much rather have real A-grade, super, and I'm going to use a certain saying here, wow signings that would elevate this team and provide a good base for the young guys to learn in. Now, we thought at the start of the season that we had a decent squad in terms of squad composition, purely based off of pre-season form or Australia Cup form. It now looks like we need to clear out and bring in players in either January or in the following transfer market.
I think the bigger problem's not just the players, it's the club's in dire need of investment.
I agree.
And we haven't done that. And I'm not, again, I'm just going to reiterate, I'm not having this isn't personal, but Dave, a lot of potential. However, he's has no experience as a head coach.
But has no help around him.
He has no help around him because you've surrounded him with people like Stan,
inexperienced,
someone who's never done the role before. He's inexperienced. He's got no qualifications.
And then on top of that, you have a cash-strapped club and an owner that seems to be cost-cutting.
Yeah,
and
it's a recipe for disaster.
And then underneath all that, you've got a group of players where a large number of them are experienced, and like we said, even the experienced players, the likes of, Lachlan Barr or someone like Hamzawi or Ioma, just
don't have A-League experience.
I think even if you're not investing in the players, you invest in the people that run the club, so you get the best director of football, the best head of recruitment, the best money can buy. Otherwise, what's the point?
Well, the question is, were we really expecting, from the tweet that Fraser mentioned, were we really expecting as a club these guys who had minimal experience in the A-League, especially the young boys, to hit the ground running and carry
Ironically,
us?
it's been the young boys that have been the best out of all of them. Ironically, Zach Lijalewski was probably one of our better players today.
Yeah.
Ironically, Quiet and Go, coming off the
Showed
bench, has looked better than Mile Uznic has even shown a speck of this season.
It's a shame as well, because if they had proper guidance, imagine what they could do.
Absolutely.
And not be thrown into the deep end.
Look, there's so many concerns that we can bring up about, every single level. The players, well, their work rate's not good enough. They're not fit enough, whatever. David Drillich, oh, well, the system's too complicated. Oh, well, we're not creating enough chances. Oh, well, we can't get the ball to our 10 enough, so we can't actually create anything through the middle, which was something that I really wanted to address. Caicedo, when he got on the ball today, looked phenomenal. I really enjoyed watching him today. I thought he was good. He was energetic.
He had better positioning than the previous few tens.
His
He had good
passing,
positioning.
his
He
passing
made
was
good
solid.
turns.
His passing was solid. He was very good with his turns. He was energetic.
decent
He was
touches.
chasing everything around. He was what we have needed. So I'm happy to say, look, maybe we give Caicedo some time to
Get
be
used to
our
the
10.
grips of things.
And
yeah.
Exactly.
You are forgetting it's his first game. Look, I know you said he's maybe not A-League level, but think about the players that Mariners brought in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
But the first game, they never looked good. And you just got to give them time.
Like Mikael Docker looked like the biggest waste of
That's true.
waste of a visa spot I've ever
That's
seen,
true.
and then became the best right back in the league in the span of what? He went from dog shit visa signing to best right back in the league in the space of a month.
Yeah, that is true. But at the same point, though, you're sort of questioning, though.
You're relying too much.
Well, the question is that what did we think this squad was going to achieve as a football club? Realistically,
Apparently a lot.
Well, if we're saying we're not going to tolerate failure, we want to get up the top of the table fairly quickly, and then you got your captain saying we want to make the finals, which I absolutely support.
I just think that it was either a lot of
Have we
people around
overestimated the A League?
I was going to say
We've definitely overestimated. We just got to accept that this hasn't worked.
we
And
didn't
I'm not going to
overestimate
take
we
the...
underestimated.
Sorry, we
Underestimated.
We've underestimated. I'm sorry. I know you boys might disagree, but I'm not going to take the excuse again. Give it time, because it clearly hasn't worked. Because they literally said give us
I
a
don't
few
wanna give
weeks
it
or
time.
about by
No.
round 4. I think they said.
You get paid.
So I think Ross needs to make a hard decision.
See, here's the thing is, right? I completely agree with you. I don't want to give it time, but I'm faced with two decisions as a fan of this club. Is either A, give it time and stick it through, or B,
Give up.
leave. Give
Yeah.
up. And
The
I
thing
don't
is,
want to.
I'd be fine with that, right? Because we're told, give it time, we'll get better, but it hasn't gotten better. That's the thing.
but
Ross needs to make a hard decision.
But this is the problem. It's even before Pellegrini bought the club, it's been the push for please give us patience, please give us time. I'll happily,
happy for that.
I'll be happy, more than happy, to give you as much time as you need when I see a project that we can believe in and has potential,
or at
and
least
is
when we get
showing
direct
progress.
communication.
Direct communication.
Exactly.
But again, this comes back to you from the outside, it does not look like you have got highly credible people that are running your football club. That's just the reality of the situation. People look at, and I'm sorry to say, I hate doing it, I hate calling people out, but there's the impression among a lot of A-League fans that I've spoken to and I've seen what they've said, there's the impression that our director of football has not got a Scooby-Doo what he's doing. And I'd hope to think he does know what he's doing, but it's not supported by A, his comments, B, the signings that have been made, and C, when you rate his overall performance as a director of football since he was employed by Ross Pellegrini, I think it was around about March, right? Jacob Burns, if there is going to be a change, of director of football, I wonder if we did. I would have liked to have known if we did sound out Jacob Burns, who previously was our director of football when Tony Popovich was in charge. Look at the club, how we were doing that. He played a big part, as far as I'm aware, in creating what was a 2-star academy a fair few years ago when he was director of football.
I mean, that would be the logical thing, right? Bringing in someone who's
or even Jamie
experienced,
Harnwell. Jamie
because I
Harnwell
think-
got good experience
I
at
think
Football West.
We're
Ex-Glory
relying
captain.
too much on inexperienced because we want to be cheap.
Cost cut.
We want to be cheap, but at the end of the day, this isn't. We're not. Well, we are blaming.
Well, there has
we're
to be
blaming
blame.
everyone,
It's been
but
poor
at the end of the
performance.
day, it falls on Ross. And I'm sorry to say it, but that's the truth. Because you could blame Stan because he's not experienced, but as well, has he gotten the right backing from Ross? No.
And what seems
And has Stan given Zrilic the right backing?
well, the question is, was David
It's a domino effect.
Yeah, was David promised something before he was given the role of head coach, and then wasn't made clear with that promise if they were going to be followed through? For example, like
See, the fucked up thing is that it goes, like you said, it is a domino effect,
Yeah.
but it goes two ways. Ross's lack of investment falls on Stan because he has to cost cuts with the signings, which then falls on Zrilic because he doesn't have what he wants, which then falls on the players because they haven't got that
the
experience.
domino
But then
effects, yeah.
the players fuck up Zrilic because they're not performing. Zrilic is fucking up Stan because now Stan looks like an idiot. Even though that he's gone out and signed all these players, Zrilic isn't performing with what he's got.
Yeah.
And now Ross looks like an idiot for Stan going out and
Yeah.
making shit signings that don't work.
Yeah.
It goes both ways. Everyone from all departments at this club has got it wrong so far this season. And I hope it gets better. I don't see it getting better before the end of the season because right now it's fucking
There's
awful.
no evidence to suggest that it will get better, and it doesn't help when we can only judge on what we see.
Yeah.
As fans, we can only judge on what we see. You can speculate, and I apologise. And look, I'm guilty of it. Sometimes I see a little bit of glimmer. I latch onto it like a puppy, and I go, "Fuck, we're going to win the league," for example, right? Or we're going to make the finals, for example. Like at right now, it looks stupidly insane, right? But I've said this on the previous podcast. We want some positivity and a sign of direction that we can build towards as a club, but we're not seeing it at this moment in time. And so, that Melbourne again, this Melbourne City game that we've all just come back from, like we've all seen pretty shitty losses. I don't think at home we've seen a more
Sydney last season.
No, at home.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I don't think we've seen. I cannot recall in our history in the A-League a more diabolical, crap, lack of ideas, lack of any innovation, any sort of, even with the players, no aggression in the challenge, no intensity, no desire, no understanding of the fans that were supporting you in voice and in numbers. There doesn't seem to be that understanding, and some people were making the comment, and for whatever comment that we don't mention during our pod, we'll flash it during the whole episode, but it felt like the old salary cap days where we got found out, we got sprung, and it was like that 3-0 Sydney loss that we had at home.
The low chance that Ross is actually, or someone's actually listening to this, I just want to say I'm not out, or I don't have anything against you, but at the end of the day, it's not working, and you need to do something. You need to do something about it before it all falls apart, which it already is. But like any business, hard decisions need to be made, and I'm not out. I thank you for taking on the challenge of trying to run our club, but something needs to happen. And I think, unfortunately, because of this result, something will happen. I don't know what quite will, because we don't fully understand.
We don't know.
If
Who's responsible
Relic
for
gets
this and
sacked
that.
for this performance, I've lost faith in this club.
I agree. It's like you can.
And I remember I said on Boom Radio a few months ago when I was on there, I said, and I only listened to my interview back a couple of weeks ago because I was like, oh shit, I wonder how things have changed since then. And one of the things I said was, this was when we still had Alan Stajic before he got sacked.
Yeah.
I said, I still think Alan Stajic will be at the Glory at the start of next season because I think Ross is a smart businessman and he won't make a stupid decision like sacking him before the start of the season. He went and sacked him before the start of the season then.
And allegedly didn't want to pay him out.
Yeah, exactly.
And the thing I will say about Stan as well is, when you think about it, Stan had no backing. Stadge, sorry.
Yeah.
Stadge had no backing, and look how he did. He got results.
Well, that's been a point that we've made a number of times on this podcast and in different forums, is that we looked more competitive, better coached, played better attacking football,
More professional.
had better output.
You look at the
with
squad
Alan
we had.
Stajic with not shit players, but like a shit budget versus what we have right now.
I think our squad last season, and I'll cop flack for saying it, our
Go on,
squad
say it.
last season was better than it is this
No, it's
season.
not.
It is.
We couldn't even keep Bazanic.
It's better. No, I'm saying it's
experience
better.
of last season's squad made such a difference compared to this one.
Well, you had A-League experience.
You had A-League experience
big
in last
point.
season, but you had guys like, and look, lots of these players were shit from week on, week out.
Yeah.
But guys like Amini, Kamau, Sushnia,
Kolakovsky, Bazanic when he was there.
Bazanic when he was there. These are guys that, sure, they weren't performing every week, which is why we finished bottom of the table and got the spoon. But having that experience in your squad means so much. You compare, losing Kolakovsky and replacing him with someone like Faisal. You look at losing Sushnia and replacing him with someone like Lijalaiski. You look at losing Amini and then and replacing him with someone like Gomulka.
Yeah.
This is experience that you're losing to then bring in young players. And I understand fans that want to say, oh, well, we had a very good off-season. We brought in heaps of players. Oh, the squad is not as good as it was last season.
No.
And as much as I want to say it, Stadge is a better coach than Zrilic, but he plays a shitter style of football. And we said this last week as well. You can play with a mediocre team. You can play a mediocre style of football and get results. But you can't play a good style of football with a mediocre team and get results because it doesn't work. Right down to the fundamentals.
Yeah.
If you have shit players, you can't play good football. If you have shit players that play shit football, sometimes you can squeak it out.
Yeah.
If you play long ball fucking trash, for 90 minutes, maybe you get a little bit of luck. Maybe you can squeak something out. Maybe you can get a draw or a win if you're lucky.
Yeah.
But what we're seeing is a relatively mediocre squad that is underperforming, that is trying to play high octane, high pressure, very quick, risky football.
Yeah.
And it's not working. And as much as I want to stick with Zrilic, because I can see what he's trying to do.
We can see
what you're trying to do, David. And that's why I back you so much. Is because I know for a fact that if we had the squad and we had the players that were able to
probably could
fit
play
this,
that brand of football.
If we had the squad and we had the right players, maybe we don't win today.
No.
But we beat the Mariners. 100% we beat the Mariners.
You put in a
We probably
competitive
beat the
performance
Phoenix.
today. You put in a competitive
100%.
performance.
MacArthur and City today, you put in a competitive performance. Morton City, Excelsior, you beat, and we maybe even make a run to win the FFA Cup.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I think you beat the Mariners and I think you beat the Phoenix. But I also have to look at David and say, you don't have the players. And I understand you want to implement that system for maybe when you do have the players and you have those younger guys that you want to keep out. But results now matter.
It's a results-based industry.
Especially when your job is on the line.
Yeah, I think my problems, and I've articulated them on various forums, like on the Far Post Perth and the recent pod, I said, well, look, something like a formation change should be considered. Because the way in which we play at this moment in time, and the debate was mostly centred around, do we have the right number 10? You could say there's maybe a case for Caicedo, but even still, in terms of a natural fit that could play that role week in, week out, don't think we have it. I've advocated for at least a couple of weeks now for a switch to a 3-4-3. And maybe it's not everyone's cup of tea because, it's defensive. It's not attacking football. It's not really a Leipzig formation. Well, we need to be pragmatic because we're at risk of having a consecutive wooden spoon season to last season.
These decisions need to be made because it's not just a one or two player fix.
No,
when you're
it's not.
Conceding 13 goals in 4 games,
it's the chances we concede as
and
well that
we're
are
not
scary.
even scoring like a goal.
No,
we can't defend or attack. Like, it's just not working.
Yeah, so I think the big takeaway from not just today's game, but this start to the season, is that Ross has to put his hand up and say, we got it wrong. We got it wrong, and we need to reassess why we got it wrong, and importantly, how can we try and salvage the season? Because I don't want to be in a doom and gloom mode where it's like, fuck, we've got another wooden spoon again, because I'd hate for that to happen. But we need to see change clearly within the club. And I don't think for those that are wanting David to go, that's the answer. There's no guarantee that if Stan goes, that's the answer. There's no guarantee if Ross sells the club, that's the answer, for as extreme end of the spectrum as we might be looking at. But there fundamentally has to be communication that starts with the owner at the very top, because like we've mentioned a couple of times now, there is that trickle-down effect. He needs to come to Perth. He needs to either have a press conference or have a fan forum, speak with the fans, get a wide variety, get people from the shed end, get people from the GSSC, get people from the Bay, get your family-going fans, get your casual fans, meet them all at the same time or in different time periods. Have an open and candid conversation with them. Because I remember when Round Ball Australia, they used our
Ross, this will all be fixed if you come on the pod, by the way.
Well, look, they shared our segment from the MacArthur rant, and they were saying, Glory fans are in doom and gloom mode already. But I can't blame fans that are in a doom and gloom mode, because that's what we've come to know of this football club that once upon a time was extremely successful, not just in the NSL, but at one point in the A-League.
Was the face of Australian football.
Well, we were the model club for building an A-League side. That's the thing. Everyone said, now be like Perth Glory, be like Perth Glory. Look at how they're run on and off the park. And yes, okay, NSL wasn't a salary cap league, so we sort of went and bought the best players. But the point is, we built a club from top to bottom that was the model for other clubs. But now other clubs have gotten ahead of us, and we are really far away from getting anywhere near the finals, let alone winning
Making out
a
a
championship.
bottom 4.
Well, where are our wins going to come from? That's a big
I still
question.
think there's teams in this league that we're better than. I still hold on to the belief that we're better than.
But let's say our next three games we've got West United in the night round, Adelaide away, and then Melbourne Victory away.
I think we need to win that West
After
United
that,
game.
I think we might, if we got Victory away, we might lose like 7-0.
Yeah. Apologies for that temporary cut, ladies and gentlemen. Technical difficulties, and by that, I mean we had to cut the video. So let's get into the first fan comments.
We'll get into your comments because, again, even if it's in the YouTube comments, let us know your thoughts on what the problems are. What should we do to fix them? How can we move forward from here?
This is for the club, not by the way, not us, because we are perfect and we have absolutely nothing wrong with us.
Clearly. So, Jovan, our mate Jovan.
Love you,
Hi, brate.
Sydney United, bro.
Had good hopes for Zrilic, even Stadge was better.
Not as a...
Yeah, it's a
like we
tough
said,
one.
Look, Stadge played dog shit football.
But it got 45 goals.
It did get 45
As much as it got 69 goals conceded, it still scored goals.
It did score goals, but
I know.
it was dog shit football.
Nick, the squad isn't able to play an effective pressing style due to quality, fitness, IQ. That's an interesting point. So it's up to Zrilla now to adjust the system to play to the players' strengths or probably get the boot pretty soon. Tommy, Melbourne City fan, good bloke as well. Give him a shout out. Feel bad saying it, but we completely outplayed Perth Glory today. From an outside view, the lack of investment into that Perth side is sad to see and seems too reliant on the young guys being able to step up, which is ultimately unfair to them. I think that's a really good point.
I also think that's a
I
good point.
think that's a
Yeah.
really good point.
I
was
think it's a bit
talking with-
unfair for him to say lack of investment, considering he comes from oil money background.
No, I know, but you know.
No, but I was talking with Aiden, the West United fan.
Yeah.
Aiden JB 2000.
It's all right.
I don't know
We'll
what his
tag
name
you,
is.
bro.
No, he won't.
There you go.
But I was talking to him about Western United the other day, and I was like, yeah, I'm a real big fan of Western United, playing all their youth players and stuff like that. But even you can see with them, even though they have some really high quality youth, how much it affects them. Even with the own goal from Dylan Leonard,
Yeah.
which ended up losing them the game against Adelaide.
Yeah.
Youth is a risky factor because if it plays one way and you've got an incredible talent on your hands, you can sell them for big money. You can get a lot of, profitability out of them. It's very good. But if you rely on it too much and it doesn't work,
Then is a problem.
very big problem. And that's why I think we, as well as Western United, are going one way in terms of
Youth development.
Youth development, where we're relying heavy on youth.
Probably
we're
too much.
We're maybe making a bit of money on the youth.
Yeah.
But in terms of on the pitch results, we are really struggling, really struggling. But then you look at other clubs that have, heavily trusted in younger players.
Yeah.
MacArthur, for example, Jed Drew has been phenomenal
Jake
for
Holman.
them. Jake Holman has been
Outstanding.
honestly one of the most unsung midfielders in the league for the last 2 years.
Kelly Adams has been okay.
Keely Adamson, I
Yeah.
think he's been all right. He gets a lot of slander, but I think he's been all right personally.
Yeah.
There's a lot of clubs that rely very, I wouldn't
It's
say
smart.
heavily
It's
on youth.
smart how they
It's
do it.
smart integration.
Yeah.
A lot smarter than what we're doing or what Western United are trying to do.
Yeah.
And that's why I think we're struggling in particular.
Exactly. Fig Kid said, "Where's Anasmo?" Very good questions.
It is a good question, yeah.
Fiat Multiplar. Massive problems in the middle of the park. There is a mile of space between the attacking three and the rest of the midfield.
Yeah, you did mention that when we're there.
Yeah, I was cracking the shits on the sideline with that. Asking Faisal to do too much work.
I disagree.
There's no way this squad can play the press. I agree. Complete lack of cohesion and roles not clearly defined. A total mess. Glory Express. Can we trade the license with another team in the NPL instead? It just feels like a waste of money to keep watching this team. Chris Dwyer, our worst home result on record. Say what you want. We never lost like this when owned by Sage. That's a fair point. Never seen the Shed revolt this way either. That's also a very important point. I've never seen that personally. To the extent where it got the whole crowd involved.
Yeah.
I've never seen that.
The chanting "We want 6" and Melbourne's on fire. Our defense is terrifying.
That is a big indictment on where we're at right now. He also said Sale is supposed to be a leader but spits the dummy. Seem as though there are more things contributing to the problem than fixing it. I'm not sure I agree with the Sale
I don't
point.
agree with the Sale
I mean, look,
point.
it was pretty colourful. The the explosion on sales.
Because
end.
he doesn't fucking deserve this shit.
He doesn't, and I think when you think about it, this guy's put on the back burner every single game when he's having to save God knows how many shots every game. City,
and then get ridiculed by fucking people on Twitter who...
Well,
He probably goes to sleep
do-
and has
do you know-
nightmares about it.
do you know how many shots Melbourne City had in total, guys?
It was 23.
23 shots, 9 on target.
And we only let 5 in. That's pretty good.
Josh, I'm going to reach across this
Alistair said the players just aren't giving enough and or aren't good enough. Also stand out, he's an absolute tool. That Breyer guy, is it worth asking Graham Arnold if he wants to step in for a season? Zrilic seems out of his depth and Stan is full of shit. Abelas can honestly say there doesn't seem to be a clear formation or game plan. The central midfielders are passengers. We have no creativity whatsoever.
So let's think of the positives today, lads. Now, honestly, look, there were honestly a couple of positives
There were
that I wanted to.
positives for me.
There were a couple.
All right, what do you think?
The one new positive, which is the only new positive I can think of this game, is that Christian Caicedo looks like he could be a good sort of option for us.
He
going
provides
forward.
something different.
He provides something, but the rest of the positives are shit that we already knew. Is that
Well, no.
Lijalowski and Blair are good prospects.
Do you reckon they're being utilised correctly?
Lijalowski, no,
or
we know he's not
maybe
being.
not correctly, but to achieve the most
I think-
optimal performance.
No, and I think that it's hard to sort of think of a way to do it because
Zach would be better in the back three.
we all
Blair
we
would
all
be
know
better as a striker.
we all know that Blair would be better as a striker and Zach would
He
be
killed
better
it
in
in
the
the
back
NPL.
three. I completely agree with you. But then if you're going to put Blair up top at striker, you have to make the hard decision to drop Tags to play either as a 10 or just not play him
No,
at all.
well-
and we're not going to not play Taggart.
No, of course. But as in
Either you drop him deeper to play as a false 9 for the target man and we play
3-5-2.
or
Fuck it.
4-2-2.
I can't. We can't. The way in which we defend in a 4-4-2 at the moment, it's way too easy for teams to penetrate through us. I think
agree.
you could argue whether it's behaviour based or structure based. I reckon structure there is definitely issues. You could argue behaviour because for the second goal, the defending on that was the one where there was the zigzag around and then it went to Jugarkovic, right?
See,
There were so many goals. I
I think it's a lot of structure and I think it's transition.
But
based
there's
maybe.
behaviour as well in the sense of Taras is a good midfielder, but standing there in the box like he was for that second goal and being very passive, and only Pennington was really alert to the danger. We're not playing for each other.
Yeah.
That's a big problem. I think a lot of fans would agree the boys aren't playing for each other. They're not making the right runs for each other. We're not playing as a unit. We're not playing together.
Look, in terms of
There's big
players that I
problems.
thought were all right today, Lijalowski and Blair look like very good products that I'm very happy to have at the club. Caicedo looked good on debut. I'm happy about that. Carluccio is a fucking workhorse.
Kanga gave it a red hot crack.
Kanga,
For me,
Kanga is genuinely, and I said this, and I might be clowned for saying it, but
That's
I
right.
think he's our best centre back that we've had since season 1 Lashman. I genuinely believe that.
yeah, that's fair. Season 1 Latchman.
Season
yeah.
1 Lachman is the only person that I can think of. Maybe Gregory Vutricht when he had a really good
Or
run of
Alex
form.
Grant, 1920.
Or Alex Grant.
Yeah. Or Shane Lowry in the
Or Shane Lowry.
Popovich winning season.
But Kanga is on his way to becoming a top 5 centre back in this club's history.
I think to sort of wrap things up, in terms of any final thoughts, Josh, do you have any final thoughts or any like messages that you want to send to anyone at the club if they do watch this?
I think the only person that this would be effective to would be someone at the top like Ross, because you're the only person that can really do anything. Because if people in the club are listening, is there much they can do, right? Invest. That's all I'm going to say. Invest. Give us the resources to make this club great again.
Yep. Alex, any final thoughts?
I need to go watch that video of Gareth Morgan in the ice cream.
I'd do as
Make me
well.
happy again. Look, we've discussed it numerous times over the past few weeks, and we will probably continue to do so going forward. But there's problems at every fucking area of this club. The fact that the academy's fallen apart, the fact that our ownership is underinvesting,
Yeah.
the fact that our director of football has not performed, the fact that the manager
There's questions.
has ideas that we can't execute because we don't have the group of players, and the fact that the players are not performing to the level that they
Yeah.
really need to be.
Mm.
And it's just shit, man. It really is just shit. But I'm a Glory fan through and through. I'm going to stick this shit out, and Never back down.
Well, I wanted to be positive because I want to thank the club for their help in this, and you boys as well.
Oh, and yeah.
Getting a Adam Taggart jersey for my birthday in about a week's time, whenever this gets released, was a really kind gesture. And I really wanted to be positive about. Fuck, all right. Don't Mike Tyson me, bro. I was wanting to be positive and say, shit, it's very nice of the club, but it's just a shame that I stick the damn thing on and I want to see a good performance, and then we see that. I mean, what we will say is that, look.
Hey guys, look how good the new Perth Glory kit looks this season. I haven't got anyone on the back, unfortunately, but it's a nice kit.
But what I will say is that just wait. What we'll say to wrap things up is that, look, obviously this was another disaster of a game. There's a lot of time now to fix shit up in the international break, but leave your thoughts in the comments below or wherever.
I need Faisal running a beep test every day.
Leave us your thoughts, leave us your opinions or any other things you want us to discuss, because at the end of the day, we want to hear your thoughts, we want to hear your opinions, because you never know, maybe someone might be watching and maybe we might actually see positive change so that we can get closer towards having glory days.
Thank you to our viewership from England, by the way. But the guy that always comments on
the dad, yeah.
Well,
non-league dad,
I think so. We've
non-league
got
dad, and absolute legend, all the way from, I believe it's London.
2 6. We have international viewers international listeners on Spotify as well. So to our international listeners, we do appreciate that. But Josh, anything else?
And I just want to let everyone know that thanks for listening to our rant, but we'll get through this together, and we'll make it through.
Hopefully.
Yes.
All right. Well, wrap it up.
What a way to kick off the new podcast, by the way, with a 5-0 loss. And
thanks for watching, guys.
Thank you, guys.
All right.